Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today at one of the Zergratran sessions where we talk about investments, we talk about industry, and we talk about great ideas that are coming up as solutions for the shipping industry and supply chain industry as well. Today with us, we have our two investors and two directors who joined Zergratran and are supporting us in so many different ways. And we believe this is a great way to showcase two of them, their investment motivations, and just to share a little bit of their thoughts and their experience with working with Zergratran. So I'd like to introduce Tom Lee, Zergratran's investor and director, and to give a little bit more of your background, Tom, please, would you be kind to introduce yourself?
Certainly. Thanks, Katarina. Nice to be with you today. So my background is primarily operational roles in supply chain software companies. I've been in that space mostly in the distribution side, and I had an opportunity several years ago to start my own company along with a couple other partners, and that led to a transaction where we were able to sell the organization into a much larger global organization, and got a lot of international experience there. And subsequent to that, I got involved in some other supply chain related companies, and that exposed me to Byron, and that was the connection to Zergratran and what brings me here today as a director and an investor.
Thank you so much for that, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for the support that you're offering. The second investor and director who's with us is Enrique Rivera. Luis, can you introduce yourself, please?
Hey everybody, my name is Enrique Rivera, and I've been working in many industries from film, television, media, and real estate, as well as e-commerce. So I've had experience in different fields, and through those fields, I've met amazing people like Byron, and that's how I came into knowing about this project early on. And I saw basically the foundations, how it all got started. And after seeing its progression, I can only be more trustworthy than ever about all of the work that's being done, because it's all coming into alignment in an amazing way.
Great, thank you as well, and thank you for your support. It is very important for the board to have people with a lot of different experience, and both of you have an amazing diverse experience, which really brings wealth to our discussions and also decision making. And one of the questions that will always come to mind, people who are thinking of joining Zergratran as investors or board members, is what was the motivation for the decision making process and also decision to join Zergratran as an investor and director?
Well, for me, Katarina, the motivation was, once I was, further along in my career, I wanted to be able to do things that were, a little bit different, but also do things that might leave the world a better place than if I had just sat on the sidelines and watched. I'm involved with a nonprofit here in my hometown. But I wanted to be involved with some things that were interesting. I wasn't necessarily looking for something the scale of what Zergratran was doing, but I had some experience in the circular economy. I understand the driving forces behind the UN's ESG directives. The supply chains, the macro supply chain industry globally obviously has challenges. And when had Byron come to me and said, "Hey, I have this idea," I probably would have backed off. But it was a lot more than an idea. It had support from Columbia. It had support from Ani. Those things were very intriguing to me, because not only was this a good idea, and it touched a lot of different things for me in terms of, can you get involved in something where you might be able to add some value? Can you get involved in something that is going to make a difference? And it was far enough along in the process, in terms of it wasn't just an idea, that it piqued my interest. And whenever you're getting involved with things from the outside, you certainly want to make sure that you're comfortable with the team. And I felt that early on with Byron and the Zergratran team. So that's all those things sort of combined to bring me to where I am today in my support role for Zergratran.
So I would say one of the key things was when the project got started and everything, like from its inception to now, from getting support from the government and just overall how everybody became in alignment with such an idea of how we can make it better when it comes to like transportation. It's inefficient. So creating a solutions for higher efficiencies, where an industry that for decades has not created efficiency, that's really fundamentally why it's so valuable. It's creating efficiencies where nobody was looking to create.
Exactly. And talking about a problem and the solution is something that we spend a lot of time, but also talking about a purpose, what kind of impact we're creating on a long term when we talk about industry, but also when we talk about that region, the north part of Colombia as well. And that's what we believe that pre-feasibility and feasibility study is really going to help us understand into more details of how, of the scope of our impact. Talking about the impact and the scope as well. We believe that, and thank you for sharing what motivated you to join and to invest as well. And we believe that a lot of people are thinking of some concerns that come to mind before investing. And what could those be? We mentioned a lot of things earlier in the previous webinar. Would that be a question about the location where PILA will be, or any other concern that you had in your mind before deciding to join the Zergratran team as investors and board members? Was there anything that you were thinking along the way?
For me, in my prior professional experiences, was able to have experiences both starting offices and working with parent organizations in Europe. I didn't have as much experience in South America, and to be quite honest, my opinion of South America was probably jaded by just what I would read or see in the news or the movies, and I really wasn't in tune with the business aspect of Colombia as it relates to the other countries in the region, and did a little bit of research. And what that was a little bit of a concern for mine, because I didn't have that knowledge. But when I did a little bit of research and talked to others who do business in the area, they informed me that Colombia was rather progressive, and in that region was one of the better places to be involved in business. So that, for me, that set that concern for me aside, and it really, once I understood that, and understood that the government was behind it, at least with the, and for me, a concern would have been, okay, there's a lot of things that could take this sideways, but the approval to go into pre-feasibility from Ani and then conditional approval to go to feasibility really was, for me, one of the things that sort of cemented it, that there was that support, and it was some of those concerns that I have would be mitigated because of that.
Same here, Tom. when it came to what was a worry was, how is the government's reaction? And once I got all the information, oh, the government's view on this and this, I realized, okay, we're in a good path if the government really is in alignment with this, and is even looking at, if there's a problem with this, then we can do this. When that type of alignment starts to happen, it really produces the idea, okay, so it's really genuinely possible. It just, people haven't built large infrastructure projects like this in a while. In a few countries, you see it every so often, but it's not to the scale. Like, so it's something that it takes a lot of time for people to understand it can exist. It's just a matter of the will to bring it into fruition. So there's a lot of will from many places. Everybody's in alignment with it. So that's really, really powerful.
And so I'm glad you mentioned that, investing in diverse markets, and you have actually invested in a project that is happening in North Colombia. So a investment project related to infrastructure, which is really a huge project that will be creating an impact for many years to come. And so when you think about the long-term benefits, what do you have in mind?
Well, as it relates to, so I look at, periods of time and growth and change in terms of evolution and revolution. And I think that, to one of Luis's points earlier, we've sort of evolved, the supply chain industry sort of evolved, transportation has evolved to this point, and we're now understanding that there's a lot of negative impact that many industries, not just transportation and shipping, have on the global scale and to the environment. And to be able to take that down a notch by being more understanding of what the impacts are and how to potentially reduce those. I look at that as one of the benefits to the region itself. I've done a little bit of research on other projects, including the Panama Canal, and what kind of impact that had to the region. It was one of the greatest, engineering marvels at the time, and so on. And this I look at as as something that is the next revolutionary step in the global transportation arena, and that it's to be able to be more efficient. And many of the statistics that have been gathered on ocean transport, there's a lot of inefficiencies there, and to be able to bring some efficiencies there and reduce the impact to the environment, I think both of those things I think are very important. And I think if you just pick up the newspaper and read them today, that you'll understand that both are problems. And this sort of touches both of those. And I think that the impact would be not just to the region, but globally positive.
I'm fully agreeing with you, Tom, with that, because when you think about just of the amount of new commerce that's going to flow through Colombia, you then can put into your mind, oh, this is potentially going to open up the doors exponentially for most of South America. As Colombia grows, the rest of the Americas will grow with them, because they're in some ways becoming a form of leader in that arena, in that space. So that's really an incredible positive, that as we increase commerce, it increases wealth. And that's the main thing, the velocity of money. The more that's moving around and the more efficient it moves, the more wealth is generated for the region. So overall, it's an extremely positive approach to how it can help the area.
I agree with you. We talked about this many times, and you know that every Tuesday we fully transparently talk about the impact as well, but the benefits. How is that going to look like on a long term? And thinking about that region specifically, at this point, we believe that on economical, social, and environmental scale as well, that we will be able to accelerate really the region, to help the region build up and change the way how people live in that area. And so there's so many different ways that we were planning to work around that, and collaborating with the agencies and the government as well. And Tom, you mentioned the government, Luis, you as well. What was very interesting for us when we start talking to Colombia, aside from having a confirmation from them and support after the pre-feasibility study, is that the economic development agencies were very interested and so much into knowing more about the project. We talked with the team from the city of Bogota and the city of Cartagena, and talked with their chambers of commerce and also with the economic development offices. And this is something where we found out that there's really big support and a lot of opportunities in specifically collaborating with those teams, so that we can step into the region with full support and understanding of the size of the benefits that we can create by introducing PILA and working with those people. I know we don't have a lot of time to go through details, and we never have enough time to cover every single question as they are coming. But one of the last questions that I would like to ask you is that now when you are investors and you are directors and you are attending weekly meetings, and really, I believe that you see that your feedback and contribution is highly, highly appreciated. And it's something that has been integrated in every decision making. My question for you, and I'm sure everybody else would like to know, is what are your post-investment activities and how are you personally engaged going forward?
For me specifically, Katarina, I look at my involvement here as, as just being, I guess, sort in on the ground floor, but also trying to be able to leverage some of my experience to assist in what's going to be really a significant growth cycle. Obviously it's not, we can't accomplish this with a small group of people. It's large. Even if you just look at the financial side of what it's going to take and the duration to complete this project, it's phenomenal. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, but to be involved in something like this where I can help perhaps with some guidance through partnerships or through the growth phase to try to add a different perspective on things. I look at the team that's been assembled as very diverse and from great backgrounds and with different experience sets, and I think that's what's going to be needed to launch this in an efficient way. I mean, I think there's going to be lots of challenges, and having a diverse team is key to being able to get over hurdles. And I just look at my involvement, my role as perhaps being able to help, shorten the height of some of those hurdles.
And thank you so much for that. This is really something that the team needs. As you said, diverse team, when we bring different experiences, it is really something that gives a lot of quality to the discussions and decision makings. And so having that support from both of you in a way is really something that we appreciate very much. So thank you for that.
A pleasure.
So I see that we're going to enter into many, many interesting moments, and having a diverse collective of minds really helps in seeing it from all perspectives. Me coming from Puerto Rico, having an understanding of Latin culture. There's nuances and details and events that will happen that when when it comes to those things, the challenges can be addressed. It's just we have to address them in a way that is culturally relevant. So I hope to also help in understanding that even culture is an important factor in this. And people really, sometimes when you're thinking about infrastructure and logistics, you don't think about culture, but culture applies in every sense of the word. It's just how we work together is what's going to create this amazing future.
Completely agree with you, Luis. Peter Drucker said, culture can eat strategy for breakfast. And we experience that many times. We have the best strategy ever, but when culture comes in, it changes everything. And so that's one of the major things that we really, when we put our footstep forward, we're thinking, what is the way we can appreciate the culture first and fit into the whole environment so people can understand we are there just to help them and make sure that this amazing green tunnel will be, the green shipping tunnel will be built for the benefit of everyone. You mentioned the supply chain. That's a huge, huge challenge so far, especially in the last 2 years during the COVID. And going forward in the future, we don't know what challenges we will be facing at. And so this is something that might make a big change for the industry itself. At this point, I will ask if you have any final thoughts or anything that you would like to share with the people who will be watching this recording.
For me, it's I would suggest that if anybody is interested, it's quite an interesting project. I think it's going to touch on a lot of things. I think it's going to be revolutionary in terms of how it not only the components of the project and the technology that would be used to accomplish these goals, but also very interesting from the standpoint of a lasting global impact. And for me, it's just fantastic to be somewhat associated with something that's going to be having that kind of, leaving that kind of footprint on the world.
I would invite anyone to just research Colombia, the country itself, so you can understand how it's just waiting for such a project to come to fruition. The same way the United States built the railroad tracks to connect places, we're working to connect. That's the main thing. It's connection. And that connection can bring prosperity. And once you study Colombia, you'll see it's all coming together. And Colombia is gonna be incredible.
Great, thank you so much for that. Again, we really appreciate your support in many ways. I'd like to invite everybody else, if you are interested to hear more about Zergratran and PILA project, there's a lot of information on the website to start off, but we are looking forward to connect with you. Send us an email, let us know if you have any questions. We'll be happy to set up a call with executive team, with some of our board members. We'll look forward to your email or message so that we can connect and help you understand more about this amazing project. Thank you so much, Tom. Thank you so much, Luis. And thanks everybody for watching this. We're looking forward to connect with you next week.